A small gray mouse lounged amongst the recently refreshed green grasses of the wastelands. Its nose twitched, picking up the scent of old oil and drying blood. The ground vibrated, causing the mouse to stir and roll onto its feet as it sniffed the air curiously. The ground shook again, and the mouse hunched its back fearfully. It could hear them. The sound of clicking servos, the whirring noise of ancient reactors, the thud of massive articulated metal feet, accompanied by the soft, rhythmic patter of marching troops. The shadow passed over the mouse as it squealed in terror, darting through the grass as a massive metal foot stomped down where it had been just moments ago. Pushing up a small amount of dirt around its foot, the machine took another step, leaving a massive footprint in its wake. Halcyon Bairden hung off the side of the titanic metal machine he had begun calling Thomas, right hand firmly wrapped around a handle protruding from the side of the cockpit. His right foot supported his weight against a small metal step that had been welded to Thomas's frame a long, long time ago. A Gauss rifle hung loosely from his left hand as he swayed with Thomas's movements. The crescent halberd he'd looted from his ex-owner's home as a trophy was slung across his back with a simple leather strap. He wore armor cobbled together from bits of Geknosian power armor. It fit poorly, but it had already saved him from several Gauss slugs, the small bits of semi-flattened metal now hanging from a twine cord around his neck. Hooking the Gauss rifle to his armored trousers, the young man brushed his shoulder-length sandy blonde hair out of his clear sky-blue eyes before unhooking the Gauss rifle and keeping it in hand. Dense scrub forests had recently given way to flat grasslands, the towering walls of Golgotha visible on the horizon, blurred by heat, haze, and humidity. Halcyon squinted. Trying to distinguish unarmed watchtowers from armed guard posts was difficult, with the heat, haze, and humidity turning things blurry at a distance. But Halcyon's eyes weren't like most. Where many would only see blurred haze, he was able to pick out details like he was a mile or two closer than anyone else. Tapping Thomas's spherical cockpit with the muzzle of the Gauss rifle, Halcyon pointed to the left of their current path. "I think I see a blind spot over there, halfway between that large gate and that floodlight array." He had to shout over the sound of Thomas's heavy footsteps, the machine's pulsing red cyclopean eye focusing on the area he described. Thomas didn't stop walking as they adjusted course. More than 1,000 freshly freed slaves, androids, and agrobots followed suit. From somewhere in the back of the column, a voice began to sing a song they'd all learned during their journey over. It was from what the machines had called the homeworld, from an age where humanity had not yet met their intergalactic neighbors. Supposedly, it had come from a piece of entertainment known as a video game, and had achieved unbelievable popularity amongst those it was supposed to mock. "They'll look high and they'll look low." Halcyon smiled softly, knowing that even though they faced a great challenge, his people could still raise their voices in song. Like the soft roar of water rushing through a culvert, the song began to build in volume as more and more began to sing as they marched. "They'll look everywhere we go." The sound of singing voices swelled, as more than half of those who were able picked up the tune. Halcyon felt pride as they stopped closer to the capital city. Less than a week ago, they were all glorified farm equipment. Now they were an army. Maybe not a strong one, but you don't need much strength to spit in the face of a tyrant. "But when the sinners find us, we won't hide." Halcyon took a long, deep breath of the clean wasteland air, his people's song reverberating through his entire being as the rest of the voices joined in, a beautiful harmonic melody rising to the sky from the mouths of free men and women. He didn't know who this mysterious swordsman was that they were supposed to be meeting, but he hoped they could at least enjoy a good song. Clearing his throat, Halcyon passionately added his voice to the rest, belting out the final verses with a grin. "They'll come loud and they'll come fast, but if we shoot first, then we can last." There was a pause, a lull in the song as they reached the final verse of the first stanza. Then, as one, they all sang out at the top of their lungs, "Keep your rifle by your side." Drake flopped down into the smoky chair Death had provided him earlier. There was a deep pain in his chest, like a dull knife between the ribs. He'd ignored it up until now, pushing it away, afraid to let it take root. A pale hand set a glass of dark brown whiskey in front of him, hand lingering on the glass before lifting away. Slumping forward, he took the lukewarm glass and held it both hands in his lap. Staring down at the glass, he softly asked, "How do I listen to them? I don't want to ignore them anymore." Death glanced at his champion, softly setting the decanter of whiskey back atop the office's lone filing cabinet. Settling himself down in his high-backed chair, Death took the time to remove his prosthetic lower legs, setting them on the desk. He picked up his own glass of whiskey, swirling it gently, thoughtfully, as he considered the question and how to answer it. Taking a sip, Death made a face, reminded why he abhorred alcohol in his previous life as its terrible, stringent flavor bathed his tongue. Setting the glass down, Death sighed. "You must look within. Clear your mind, young warrior. You will experience the terror of their final moments when you find them. The pain and rage you feel is not just your own. It is theirs as well." Drake didn't look up from his glass, softly swirling it out of a need to do something. Silently, Drake nodded, throat too tight to speak as he closed his eyes and leaned back into the chair. Taking a deep breath in, he slowly let it out, forcing away his thoughts, fears, and failures from his mind. "Small dark loaves baked in the earthen oven. My old frail hands gently taking them from the rack and setting them out to cool with a smile. Shuffling over to the window, I gazed out at the young ones playing in the street, unburdened by their cruel masters, thanks to the brave young man who'd returned to the village, wounded and beaten, to save them. There was an almighty roar as the floor beneath me suddenly rippled, a shockwave tearing the walls off the bakery and sending the small loaves flying. For a moment, I flew too, weightless, unburdened. I hit the ground head first, hearing my own neck snap and feeling my body go numb. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move, terror and pain engulfing what was left of me as my vision slowly faded, unable to drag in even one more breath." Death flinched as Drake went rigid, teeth clamping down as the glass in his hand burst from the pressure. Pity touched his heart, understanding the pain his champion now felt on an intimate level. The boy slowly relaxed, tears leaking from his closed eyes before he tensed again, grinding broken glass into his palm as he died another death. "I capped the water gourd eagerly, rushing from the well towards the fields. Big Brother had returned like he said he would, new scars adorning his face and hands as souvenirs of battle. I hardly waved at Big Brother as I ran towards him across the freshly plowed fields, holding the gourd high over my head proudly as I reached him. Big Brother laughed and gently took the gourd, uncapping it and taking several swallows of the fresh well water. He capped it and handed it back, along with a smile and thanks, leaning against the plow handles. I smiled at him before running off with a light giggle to refill the gourd. Halfway to the gates, I heard Big Brother scream my name. I paused, turning my head to look at him before smiling and waving goodbye. The ground heaved, a chunk of earth flying up and crashing into my chest, crushing the gourd. I felt my arms, then my ribs break as I was lifted away, thrown onto my back and crushed beneath the massive stone. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even draw enough air to cry for help. Terror washed over me as darkness encroached on my vision. I tried one last time to call for help, but nothing came out, not even a squeak. I felt myself beginning to cry as the darkness took me into its cold embrace." Memory after memory of death, carnage, and destruction flashed before his eyes. Promises he couldn't keep, lives he couldn't save, grief so all-consuming it threatened to destroy him. His grip slowly fading as pain, fear, anguish, and regret washed over him like a tidal wave. He wanted to cry, to scream, to do anything to stop them from dying, all while knowing he couldn't. I held the rifle in shaky hands, fear thumping through my veins as the bunkers shook. Then he was there, asking for a rifle. A boy a few years younger than me, scarred and confident with the air of a warrior as they demanded a gun. I held mine out, timidly asking if we were going to make it. He had paused then, stoically smiling as he asked my name, which I freely gave. He nodded, reassuring me everything would be fine. Darkness. so complete and empty that it pressed down on him like a mountain. The only thing he could still feel was terror and loss. Drake's grip slipped, and there was a moment where he was falling. He died 100 deaths, then another 100 more. Blaster bolts and Gauss slugs burning and tearing his flesh as he cried out in pain, falling deeper and deeper into insanity, until a soft, small hand took his own and he grabbed it, holding on to it for dear life as he was dragged from the whirlwind of gruesome death and destruction within his own soul. His bare feet touched soft grass. A voice, like tinkling bells, softly pleading, "Open your eyes, mister. Please open your eyes." Recognizing the voice, he clamped his eyes shut tighter, unwilling, or perhaps unable to reopen the fresh wound so soon. He shuddered, shaking his head as tears of anguish leaked from his eyes. He shook his head, unable to speak through the lump in his throat as he fell to his knees, sitting on his heels as he slumped forward, holding on to that tiny hand with everything he had. He forced himself to speak, his voice barely more than a croak. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to. I don't know if I can." Another small hand cupped his, squeezing it tightly, reassuringly, as Miranda gently hugged it to her chest. A vibrant, pulsing heartbeat shot up through Drake's arm, forcing his eyes open. He knelt in a field of endless grass. In the distance, people he knew and recognized bustled about, building houses, playing music and games, and laughing. He looked down at the small girl in simple white clothing, holding his hand to her chest with a teary-eyed, concerned look on her face. He couldn't believe his own eyes. That heart throb continued to pulse up his arm, into his chest and all over his body, bathing him in a sorrowful warmth. Swallowing the lump in his throat, he pulled his hand free and dragged her to his chest, sobbing with relief and regret, his voice cracking and croaky. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry." Her small arms wrapped around his broad shoulders as he bawled his heart out. He felt Miranda's small hand pat his back as she quietly, compassionately shushed him. "It's okay, mister. It's okay. I forgive you." Drake's body racked with sobs of relief as he finally accepted being forgiven. Taking the time to compose himself, he took a few deep breaths, and when it no longer felt like he'd shatter into pieces, slowly pulled Miranda away, giving her a weak smile that was 10 times stronger than he felt. He gave her a smile and nodded. "Thank you." She beamed at him, pulling him abruptly towards the large gathering further in the grasslands by his hand. An ethereal giggle made his heart swell as she shouted happily, "No more crying, crybaby! Let's go say hi to everyone!" Drake let himself be pulled along, feeling that heartbeat all around him now as he entered the under-construction township. From the unfinished roof of a small house, a scrawny figure waved amicably before shouting, "Hey, boss man! Long time no see!" Drake looked up in surprise as Randall leapt from the roof, landing cat-like on the ground before jogging up to Drake with a teasing grin. The young man was happy-looking, well-clothed and fed, his dishwater blonde hair combed neatly back as he softly punched Drake's shoulder. "Damn! You look like shit! Giving those lizards hell for me?" Drake nodded firmly, quickly drawing the young man into a tight, quick hug, before confirming, "Oh, yeah. I've been giving him hell. I'm a troublemaker, after all, through and through." Randall laughed good-naturedly before jabbing a thumb over his shoulder. "I gotta get back to work. Houses don't build themselves, after all. Good seeing you, boss man." Randall turned and jogged back towards the house, waving goodbye before leaping onto the roof like he was made of helium. Miranda tugged Drake's hand, and he followed, looking around at his people with mouth agape. Some waved, others tossed a friendly insult, and yet more simply walked by with a gentle smile of acknowledgement. For all the sorrow and chaos of the past months, Drake could finally start trying to forgive himself. Miranda stopped suddenly, shaking Drake out of his reverie. Looking up, he saw his old hovel, rusty tin siding strapped to a framework of discarded pipes and lumber, the sloped, semi-concave roof hanging out over a plastic barrel full of rainwater. It was just as he'd remembered it. So simple, and yet so comfortable. Miranda looked at his home with a melancholy expression before sighing softly. Thank you, Drake, for fighting for us. Don't be afraid to call on us when you need some extra firepower. We're always here, and through you, we can always fight. She gestured at the small hut, the small door squeaking open on its own. You should head back to the world of the living now, though. Something big is coming, and they're going to need you more than us. Drake looked down at Miranda and nodded, gently releasing her hand and ruffling her hair with a melancholy smile. All right, kiddo. I'll be back when I get some time, all right? She nodded eagerly, eyes lighting up. Please, you promise? He nodded. This would be a promise he knew he could keep. Turning to face the hut that he'd called home for 10 years, beckoning him. With a dutiful sigh, he plodded up to his old hut and stepped inside, shutting the tin door behind him. Opening his eyes, he found himself sitting against the back wall of an elevator. Tears involuntarily leaked from his eyes as he wiped them away and stood. His heart still hurt. He doubted it would ever stop hurting, but at the same time he felt a peace he hadn't known in a long time settling into his core. He was bound to lose people on his way to victory. He knew it would still hurt when they were gone. He knew he couldn't save them all, yet he still vowed to try. Vowed to save as many as he could, even if it hurt. He could still fight for them, adding their strength to his own so they could continue fighting, even in death. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of the elevator, touching a hand to his chest and feeling that same strong heartbeat from the village. So long as he lived and breathed, so did they. This thought bringing peace to the pain in his heart as he softly whispered, You guys ready to kick some ass? Strength flooded his body like never before, as the souls living inside him cried out for vengeance.